Hello, good morning. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yes, good, thank you. I've been looking forward to this. I really enjoyed last week's. Um, Nice to hear the nice comments we've had from people who
Yeah,
seem to have liked it as well, so that's good. We do actually
it
have
was awesome listening
viewers and
to get feedback.
listeners, so that's a good start. Um, what I should sorry. I am gonna make it available on a podcast platform for anybody that likes to kind of just listen. Obviously, we've got this on YouTube at the moment.
Mm.
So yeah, it will be in a podcast format as well soon. It's just like anything. Having the time to sort it all out, but that will be.
Well, just as well, one of us knows how to do it because, yeah, I think I would only know how to upload it to
Oh,
Facebook.
all right, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were. I thought you meant that you knew how to do it and I didn't.
Oh, no, no. I'm not the
Um,
most people.
well, I think I know what I'm doing. We'll soon find out. Um,
Trial and error.
so yeah, so we're going to start off this week with we have had a couple of comments, questions from some of our viewers. So yeah, we'll start off with those. So, did you want to read out the first comment, Nat? Sorry, Nat Moss Art, and then
Um,
yeah, we'll take things from there.
yeah, so we had, I put a post out on my YouTube and we had a lovely question from YouTube, which, yeah, I thought was very interesting. So I'll read out the question and I'll
Okay.
let you answer first. So I am curious about if you ever have times where you struggle to be in a creative mindset. And if so, what do you do to solve that, to get back into the creative zone and thus back to making awesome art?
Right. Well, I do have thoughts on this one.
Yeah.
I have thoughts on most things.
Don't we all?
And I can ramble on for a long time, which I suppose is a good quality for a podcast. I'll let you be the judge. Anyway, yes. So, right. So, if you want me to go first on this one, I'd say that um, for me, that we can always feel more or less motivated, more or less inspired. And
Mm.
the thing is, those things are feelings, and feelings kind of come and go. And there's something about, and this is where like my kind of work around mental health and boxing kind of comes in. I use a lot of quotes, and there's one I use from Mike Tyson about discipline, where he talks about discipline
Yeah.
being doing something you don't want to do, but doing it like you love it anyway. And I think there is that difference between inspiration, motivation, which is a feeling, and discipline, which is actually doing something.
Yeah.
And I think with artistic stuff, there is often that thing that I've got to feel creative, I've got to feel inspired.
Yeah.
But actually, I think, and it goes back to the Nike thing, just doing it. I just enjoy doing it, you can get into all different things. I wouldn't say I feel creative because I don't know. I think I said last week, I don't consider what I do creative in the way that yours is, for instance.
It is totally
But,
creative,
but
Matthew.
oh yeah, no,
Don't put yourself down.
no, no. I suppose. I mean, when I was writing in the poems, that is. But like, yeah, it is, it is. But it's not. It's
Very
not like I have
creative.
to think. I don't kind of think very visually. It's not like I have to have an image in my head and then think I'm going to do
Mm.
that. But I suppose this is where one of the things that I was going to say is that for me, creativity, a big thing about it, it's a mindset. And to me, inspiration is all around you all the time. And this was something that um, I really learned when I was writing.
Mm.
Once I started, it's like the floodgates opened and I never stopped. Well, I did, but uh, 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 it became a book. It was never that was never the intent, but it was like a song came on the radio, or someone said something, or a thought popped into my head, a single word or a single sentence, and then loads of other thoughts just followed on. And right, I've got a chapter there, or and
Yeah.
it's like when I write a poem, I'll start with one word or a phrase, and then the next one will come, then the next one will come. It's never to me, it's that an initial idea followed by making a start, and then it flows from there. So I guess
Yeah.
to summarize my response to that would be that it is that mindset rather than necessarily thinking I've got to think of something to do, be open to what's around, and you'll feel when the idea comes. Um, so yeah, that's my answer to that one. Over to you.
Um, I'm just reading the question again. Struggle to be in a creative mindset, and if so, what do you do to resolve it? So, yeah, I've had loads of times where I've struggled to be in a creative mindset. I think it comes like where one week I can be like, I remember once I did about 5 paintings in one week, and I just blasted them out, and I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm being so creative this week and I've got all this work done. And then a few weeks later, I was like, oh, I can't think of anything whatsoever to do. Um, and I think that it's so easy as well to fall into an art block.
Yeah,
I think for me, what inspires me personally when if I'm struggling, like at the moment, actually, I've not really had a like inspiration. I've not felt like I'll go through phases where I'll see something. It could be a box set. For instance, we were watching Breaking Bad. I saw Walter White and I was just looking at all the little lines on his face and the little
yeah,
tiny dots on his beard. And I thought, oh, I need to draw him. He is the one for me right now.
yeah.
So, yeah, so I did a portrait of him. And that's because I was inspired because I was so like taken into this box set
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that it's like I just needed to draw him there and then. And I had the same thing. I was watching a program about Albert Einstein and just seeing him. I just like to draw old men with lots of details. That's it.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
me.
Well, can always draw you, Matthew. Yeah, I just think the character in a face.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I just I just love it, yeah. And
yeah, yeah,
if it's like something I'm watching and I'm enjoying it, the character kind of draws me in and makes me
yeah,
want to draw them. So if I'm watching something on the telly that I'm really interested in, that can inspire me. But also for me, it's like music. So
yeah,
I've
yeah,
often I can be feeling like you have your moments where you're a little bit down and you just feel can't think of anything to draw. I'll paint and then I'll listen to a song, and if the song makes me feel good, I'll leave it on repeat for a few hours. And then by the end of a few hours, I'll be like, right, this song makes me feel this way. So the feeling that I've got now, I want to try and capture that in a piece of
yeah,
art. So
yeah,
music
yeah.
for me, massive, really, really massive when it comes to being creative. And I've often struggled with like an art block, like a burnout. And I think I discovered a new way last time it happened
All right.
actually to get through it. And so in the past I've had where it was over lockdown, I was feeling really down at the time and couldn't think of anything to paint or to draw, and I was really struggling. And when I don't paint or draw, I tend to start feeling down.
Mm.
It's just something I've always had, and it's like when I draw and paint, it lifts my spirit, lifts my mood. Um, and yeah, over lockdown, it wasn't that I wasn't going out because I spend a lot of time at home anyway, painting and drawing. So it's not like much changed, but it's just like I'd just gone down a little bit and I just couldn't. I mean, for about a year, I think my page went completely dead and I didn't really post much and I hadn't done any work. I think that's the longest I've ever been without doing some work. And I'd found it really, really difficult to come out of. And it was again, I watched a box set and I got really like focused on this box set, and it inspired me to do a portrait. And then once I'd done that portrait, it's just getting over that
Yeah, yeah,
hurdle.
yeah,
Yeah, once I'd done it, I was fine, and I was
yeah,
like painting again the next week, and I've never stopped really since then. But um, there was a recent time where I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks, and I was feeling like my brain was numb. Like I couldn't think of anything whatsoever. I couldn't find any inspiration from songs, from anything I was watching. And so I decided to paint the burnout, how
Yeah,
it was making me feel. You might remember that one.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so what I did was I didn't have a canvas at the time, but I knew I needed to get it on something. So we have a cupboard in our front room where the cat tends to like to open the door and go in. And we don't really keep much in there. So we had a shelf in there. So hopped down by the cupboard, I whipped the shelf out and I painted the shelf. So my art burnout got painted on my shelf out of the
Imagine
cupboard.
you come home to your house and you just never know what you just never know what you're gonna
I've got a
find
bike wheel,
or
got
not
a bike
find.
wheel in the loft. What I've painted, made it into a shield, found that by a bin
Yeah,
outside,
class.
much to my children's embarrassment. But yeah, just basically painted how I was feeling.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
just painted like a lady slumped on a chair with like a glass with some paintbrushes in and her hair's like set on fire. And I just thought that's how I feel right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
My brain's like it's just burnt out. Can't
yeah.
think of anything. As soon as I done it, I was fine.
That you know what I think something else that's came to mind while you particularly at the end where you said that is this
Yeah.
idea that like the creative well will run dry, that it's sometimes there's this fear that it's a limited resource or but I don't believe that. I think and yes, you might have periods where we're more or less inspired, but
Yeah.
that and I think we're all creative beings. To me, it is about what unlocks that.
Mm,
And like saying it can be anything. I mean, you mentioned there obviously the box set, and I love how you said about that
yeah.
when you notice the lines on someone else. It's funny, isn't it? The things that I think you
Yeah.
notice things differently. I've certainly since I always say since I started painting, I'll when I'm looking and talking to people, I'll start seeing lines and shapes. I see faces as
Yeah.
lines and as shapes, sorry, colors and shapes. And I'll notice different. I've never ever done that before. But I think again, so your brain automatically picks things
Yeah.
up because you're looking at faces in that way now. And
That's really true, that actually. I
yeah,
mean, I've looked at somebody and thought, I'd use a HB for your wrinkles right there. I think I'd use more of a 6B for the shadow on the side of your face. I'm already drawing you when I'm talking to you.
yeah. But and this is it. It's that's our brain, our mindset. One thing I think a couple of things as well to kind of finish off on this one that there's a book I read recently. Hang on, I've got it. It's probably here somewhere. I've put it upstairs. It'll be lying around somewhere because I'm not the most organized. But anyway, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Um,
Right.
which is really good, and that's about kind of specifically for if you feel like that your creativity's blocked, and loads of people recommend that. I just saw a local artist actually is on about running a group to go through that program. And the other thing, because for me, and you mentioned music, I think
Yeah.
you think people were inspired by and they can always I don't know help us tap back into that and I found this
Yeah.
book to be really really good. It's called The Creative Act: A Way of Being by Rick Rubin, a music producer, and that's a really good read. And again, it's that thing about that just that term, it's a way of being. Again, it's not
Yeah.
something that comes and goes that you have or you don't have. It's something that we can all tap into because we're creative by nature.
So do you feel inspired when you read the books about art then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been interested. To be honest, and it's not just art; it's people, and I've always been interested and passionate about people's stories. I'm a people person, which I
Yeah.
guess explains why portraits is the thing that I'm kind of drawn to. Capturing something about a person, and the but so yeah, I mean, reading about people's journeys, people's stories, their setbacks, what inspired them, what helped them to overcome their challenges, stuff like that always just fascinates me. Um, and and how other people work as well.
I'm really sorry
That's all right.
again, like the last podcast. If you hear a dog, right, doing roly-polies on a sofa, like snorting, that is my dog. She is so quiet, like literally don't hear I might as well have a statue of a dog. When as soon as I go on these podcasts, she's jumping up, she wants a wave, she's just been out, so I know she's lying. So if you do hear some strange noises from my background, you know it's not me.
Oh, the other thing I thought as well,
Yeah,
speaking about that kind of, I guess, other creative people and stuff. One of my favorites, Nick Cave, the singer-songwriter, and going back to that thing about what inspires us, he very much sees his writing. He approaches it as a job. So when he
yeah.
has a when he's working on an album, he'll sit down 9 to 5 every day, and he'll just write. And he has
Wow.
to, and he won't leave until he's done his 9 to 5 stint. And again, that's that thing about it's a discipline, and he doesn't particularly enjoy it. He'd go to
I
the
would enjoy
studio.
that.
He'll go to the studio with what is come up, and
Mm,
it might only be snippets and pieces, and then in the studio, he said that's when it forms and it comes together into, when he's collaborating and he's in that different environment. But that's part of his process, and I think
wow.
that's one of the other things that when I heard that question that came to mind, I'd be curious about
Yeah,
your thoughts on this, about whether we actually enjoy that creative process, because that's a slog for him. And I
yeah,
got thinking about this. It's like I love painting. I love the feel of, mixing the paint, of putting it on the canvas. But actually, a lot of the time of painting it, it's it's to get to the point I want to go. And oftentimes I'm sat in front of something that obviously is a way away from where I want it to end up.
yeah.
And that can be quite difficult. It's not, I wouldn't I wouldn't
And
say enjoyable. Yeah, so it can be a strange thing. I enjoy it overall, but there's stretches where I don't. It's like I have to get this.
yeah.
I have to get this beyond this stage because I don't like what I'm looking at.
Do you get to the point where you're looking at it and you think, please God, let me reach the end?
Yeah.
I
Oh
can't
yeah.
because I've done that a
Yeah,
few
yeah.
times. It's weird though, because if it's something, I mean, often I've thought, do you know what? Like this week, I've not painted and I've not drawn. I've had a lot of things like going on. I've had a college course I'm working on. Friday, I was doing a workshop and I do a class in the school on a Monday, and it's kind of I got a new rat, a baby rat, so it's a kind of all been took up, and I think I feel guilty sometimes. I think, do you know, I haven't made no time to do any painting or drawing, but it's like it's weird because I kind of find painting like an easy kind of thing to do. Like it's relaxing. It
Yeah.
it it, it makes you feel like you don't have to be disciplined with it. But when I've been painting for so long, then I'll get to the point where I am now, where I'm thinking I haven't done a drawing in ages. So I've just bought my paper and I've bought some new charcoal pencils, and I'm like, I know I don't know what I'm going to paint yet, but I know that I'm on the edge of finding out. It's
Yeah, yeah,
weird. It's
yeah.
like I know that soon. I mean, I've got a book here that I've wrote the question in, ready to read, and it's got all sorts of ideas in there. Like I scribble all sorts in it. I mean, the things that you would read in there, it's like, some really random, like for that,
No, no,
money is the root.
everyone wants to read that now, Nat.
Money is the root to all evil, and just like, just really strange things I'll write down, and like often, I'll be out and about and I'll look at something, like, for instance, there was a time when I was in the car and I was looking out and I saw an old building and it had ivy growing up the side of it. And I thought, I'll forget this.
Yeah,
So I need to document it, but I didn't
yeah.
have my book. I've got about three of them books, just full of ideas. That's her collar. Yeah, full of ideas. And so I text them to my daughter, Rosie. As she knows now, she will get the most random text messages from me. And I'll send her, like, ivy growing up a wall. And she's like, okay, mum. Because she knows now
That's
to
class.
text them. But you'll forget otherwise, so you've got to document
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm just waiting for the next portrait to happen for me right now.
Right.
I didn't get the point of that story, Matthew.
Yeah. Well, I'll say obviously looking forward to your next piece. Um.
I
So
would like to talk about yours, what you're working on though. It's amazing, your new one.
well, should we cover the other question, or should we go that we had last week, or should we
Right.
go on to that? Which
Talk about your painting and then
so
we can move on to the question.
right. So yes. So this week I have been mostly painting Taylor Swift. Um, and so I'd like to. This has brought a couple of things up, but a couple of things I wanted to kind of raise here because when I uh, when I started painting, the thing was about painting people that inspire me, or that I feel some sort of connection with, um, or even just kind of iconic figures from my life. So that they were the kind of things I was thinking in terms of subject. And I always had
Mm.
this thing that I wouldn't paint somebody who didn't have that. I had to feel driven to want to paint them.
Yeah,
And you know, obviously I've got a big long list of people I want to paint, and um, but then I've had a lot of people then ask me, "Can you do this person? Can you do that person?"
yeah,
And I and initially, when it was so a few people asked me commission, can you do this? And I said no. I said because when I started, I do it for
mm,
me, and it's
yeah,
just an escape for me really, and it's I was scared that I'd lose that enjoyment if the motivation for it was different. Now with term in terms of when people requested someone, if they were on my list, I'd do them if
yeah.
not when I felt like it, not when I've been asked, because again, it's for me first and foremost. But with so Taylor Swift, she's not someone I'm not a massive fan or anything. But to be fair, I have got a few of her albums, and I do
Yeah.
like. And there's a few later albums she likes. So she's been produced by a guy from a band who I really like called The National. She's featured on some of their stuff. So her latest albums I do like. So that was okay. But um, I've
Just
been
admit it, Matthew. You are a Swiftie.
yeah. I don't know. I've not dug into the back catalogue yet. I'm not shaking it off or anything like that. Uh, but so there's people that have asked me to do paintings like that. Yeah, I'm just never gonna do, and I just I don't say like no chance, but I suppose I can put it out there now. So if anybody is waiting for Ronan Keating, you've got a very very long wait. Never gonna happen. And I have one of my friends keeps saying, "Oh, will you paint Tom Hardy? Will you paint Tom Hardy?" It's like no,
You've
like.
got to feel it. You've got to feel it.
Exactly. And I know
It's
she
so
really
hard.
feels Tom Hardy, but I don't. And I said, when there's loads of other people I could be painting, that's going
Yeah.
to take maybe 10 hours of my life. I don't want to sit down in front of a painting of Tom Hardy for 10 hours. Now, other people might want to crack on, get your brush out, do it yourself. Because it's just not, you've got to feel that.
Yeah.
But that now, so there's that thing in terms of requests, and people have asked if I'm going to do this person after. The other is about kind of commissions. And
Mm.
I was asked quite early on to do a family portrait. And this was
Oh,
still in the stage of like, I wasn't taking commissions because the other thing
yeah.
is like, there's no pressure when you're just doing it for yourself. And it doesn't matter if it isn't any good, you can start again or whatever,
Yeah.
or just bin it. But when it's for someone else, it's different. And a family portrait, I thought, well, no, because I know how much work goes into one. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have the patience to do
Me neither.
four, three, what, even two on one. I could do them as
Yeah.
separate portraits, but yeah, it's not. Um, that's not something I do. But I got asked about and to do people's pets, and again, I said no initially, but then I thought, well, I'll give it a go. And I actually found I really enjoyed doing it
Have
because
you?
it was so doing animals and pets. It was something different for me at that stage, but also that there was a real satisfaction in being able to give that to somebody. Uh,
Yeah.
but the but there is that when I put out things that I've finished, I don't think, oh, will people like it? But when it's a commission, I do. Um, I,
Yeah.
and I had two really good opportunities came up very soon after I started. So one, I painted a Muhammad Ali, and I put it in a. I often put them in Facebook groups for fans of that particular
Yeah.
person. And I did one of Muhammad Ali, and one of his former opponent's wife was in this group, and she asked if I'd paint her husband. He was a guy called it was a guy who well, I can say who he is. A guy called Jerry Quarry. He fought Muhammad Ali twice. Uh,
Yeah.
he died. He died a while ago now, but his wife had asked if I could paint him for her
Oh,
for a son,
that's
for their
lovely.
son,
That's so
and
nice that
that's
she
it.
approached you.
Yeah, and that was, it was just wow. I was like,
Yeah.
but I was really nervous when I sent it. Like,
Yeah.
God, I hope she likes it,
Yeah.
you know. And she did. And then the other one I got to do through a friend, guy called Chuck Wepner, who fought Muhammad Ali and is considered the kind of the inspiration for Rocky. Sylvester Stallone was
Right.
watching this fight, and it was part of the inspiration for what became Rocky. So they often call him the real life Rocky, Chuck Wepner. And anyway, I've a friend of mine through boxing's good friends with him, and he asked me if I'd paint him for Chuck and his wife, and I did that, and that was again, I was really nervous. I actually think that's one of the best ones I've done, and they really like that. So that there's a massive thrill of painting something for somebody and them really liking it, because I think it's that thing of
Yeah.
a portrait of whether it be of them or a family member or a pet. It's such a powerful thing, and being able to do that is a real, yeah. But again, I'd be selective if I didn't feel I could do it justice. If for whatever reason it just wasn't there, then I wouldn't do it. But
Yeah.
so
You
yes,
have that's got to be in it. It's got to be. And I mean, like for me, it's like when I do a commission, I don't very often do commissions. Um, but when I have done them, you've got to be so strict with yourself. It's got to be near enough exact to how it needs to look. It's got to look like the person. I mean, a lot of the time you can afford to make mistakes around other areas if you haven't got them spot on, as long as you've got the eyes. And we've talked about this
yeah,
before,
yeah,
haven't
yeah,
we? If the eyes are correct and it looks like that person, the first thing that a person will recognize about a loved one or someone they know is the eyes. The eyes are very unique to that person. And I've found that if you get that correct, that if you make a slight mistake somewhere else, it's not as bad. But again, I can be so hard on myself at times to get it right. And in the past, when I, first started taking, I mean, I'm talking years back, first started taking commissions, I would have people say, like, can you, like, messaging me after I've shown them what it looked like? Can you change this? I don't like that about it. And you're like, oh,
do it
and,
yourself
and
then.
yeah, by this point you're fed up. You just want to throw it at them. It's just like, take this portrait from me now. I can't look at it anymore. It's a feeling that you lose interest, or I do anyway, when you've been looking at it for too long. And I think if you don't feel it's right, you give up slightly, or I do. And I just think I don't know, I like the freedom of doing it. That's somebody that's not recognizable, a made up person. You can there's numerous sites online where you can actually get copyright free
Yeah,
images. And I use like sections from different things. If I need, for instance, if I need, I don't know, a side of a woman's face, I'll use a reference of a side
yeah,
of a woman's face. And then I'll just make it my own. I'll add my own like drips and scribbles and what have you. And 9 times out of 10, it won't even look like the reference that I've used as a guide. It won't look like it because I'm not strict on making it
yeah.
look like it. It's like a guide that I'll use for like shading or lighting and that sort of thing. Um, but I like the freedom of that. you're not having to get it correct and making it your own in the process.
Yeah, yeah. That now you said something really interesting there for me that I think this kind of leads on to um the next question that we've had
Yes.
about that in terms of the accuracy of something and tools that we use to help
Yeah.
that. Like I know when I with my projects, I've done somewhere, well, quite a few, I suppose. So they don't look exactly like the picture that I've used as a reference, but I know
Yeah.
I've captured that person. So yeah, it doesn't look exactly like the photo, but I've captured them. That's them.
Yeah. You've got
Uh,
the essence.
yeah, and that thing about, but when something isn't quite right, and we touched on this last week,
Mm.
and this idea of what is almost like what we feel we're allowed to do
Yeah.
help us to get something right. You mentioned they obviously using a reference photo. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
and where and it taps into all kind of areas, and there's I think there's so much within that as to what allowable and what isn't, and that's a very personal thing. So do you want to read that question out, and we can.
I haven't got that question.
Oh, well, it was something about what it was.
Well, it was on the
What would you?
Facebook page, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
haven't
it was.
written it down actually, but so there's a lady on our Facebook, well, my Facebook page, who mentioned she would like to hear us discuss um, about how we feel and possibly how other artists feel about using a light box to do her work. She said she recently got a light box and she'd been using it, and I think she said she felt a bit guilty using it.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
right.
said that
Yeah,
would be really interesting to cover that
yeah.
actually on the
So,
podcast.
so I'll ask you. Well, first of all, can you explain what a light box is, and have you ever used one?
Yes. So I've never used one myself, but I have seen them. Um, I think it's just a box with a light, Matthew.
Well, does what it says on the tin. But isn't it kind
Yeah, it's a
of a
good
projector?
backlight.
Is it a kind of projector? Is that right?
So it's like a lit box. I think it's got like a screen that's lit underneath, and you put your paper over it. So you put your reference photograph then, and you put your paper over, and essentially it's like you trace the outline of. Say I'm going to draw you, and I was to use a light box. I would trace the outline of you, the eyes, like the main parts, the
Yeah,
features, the ears, where everything is, and
yeah.
then you would take that then as like an outline to do your artwork on, and
Okay.
then the rest of it obviously you'd make your own.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think there's a lot of guilt and shame around using these sort of things. I don't personally use anything like that myself. I kind of like the challenge sometimes of getting it wrong, but then getting it right myself. I don't have any issues with other artists using that sort of tool though. It does for me, it doesn't make them any less talented. Because the rest of it they have to do by themselves.
yeah,
They've got to do the shading, all the highlights and the shadows. You can't trace that sort of stuff. So
yeah. Of course,
that
yeah,
if somebody uses that as like a tool, as like a something to help them with their art, then that's personal for them, and I would never judge anything like what the tools people use in their artwork.
yeah. I think it's a really interesting one. This for me, I think. And I'd be curious as to what kind of viewers and listeners think about this, like whether what their stance is on it, because I think we all it's a personal thing, isn't it? We'd all have different feelings, and I
Yeah,
suppose, but also from the point of view of someone who is, um, a viewer or a buyer, or whether it'd make a difference to them to know how something is being created, but that
yeah,
but across any um across anything we have tools that help us to do a job, and the and how much is acceptable and how much do people feel is
mm,
not the word, like cheating's not the right, but you know what I mean. It's like
yeah,
make their view of the work different. So I mean, you look
yeah,
at the music where people, I mean, a lot of Oasis's music, you can directly hear their influence in, it's not
Yeah.
wholly original. And but so that there's all kinds of tools, people in terms of get the perspective on a landscape, for instance, there's tools people use. And when I was looking to start painting portrait, I'd just start just sketching, and it was the
Yeah.
proportion, getting the proportions was, I realized that was the crucial thing. And I looked about, some instructional things, how you paint a portrait, and there's various different methods. And the thing I do is I'll I'll measure where, so I do like lines across the original that show me where the eyes, the nose, and the mouth go,
Yeah.
um and then I start with those lines, and then it's all free drawn, and then the painting, and then when you start putting the paint down, that you can't see the line anyway.
Yeah.
So, you're all, so that
Vanishes.
to me is, yeah, that, see, I personally, I still feel I've drawn that. I feel I've created that, and that is important to me. I have to
Yeah.
feel that but even then I've thought, oh, should I just try and do it without doing that? And I'm like, yeah, but why? But it's funny, you do kind of, I don't know. Ultimately, I suppose it comes back to, you've got to feel good about your
It's
work.
whatever works for you. Like I invented my own technique and I shared it on my last we went to a night out. Usually there's like a few local artists and we'll go out for a couple of drinks after an exhibition and I was telling them there like about what I do. I was also telling them about my hair disaster. You know, when my hair fell out because I dyed it too much and I was walking around going like, look at my sideburns. But yeah, I was sharing my invented technique that I made up, and I've been doing this for quite some time actually. So what I do is say, let's say I'm going to draw you, right? So I'll just get this in, right? So I'll get my, be better on a plain paper, wouldn't it? So say that I'm going to draw an eye. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'll start by drawing your. Usually I'll start on it'd be your left eye, but it'll be my
yeah,
on the right. So I will say like that's the eye there. So I will look at the picture. I will look at the eye. I'll try and get it as precise as I can by just looking at the photograph.
yeah,
And then for me, it can be quite difficult going from this eye to the other eye. You
yeah,
don't want
yeah,
a gap
yeah,
too big, you don't want too small. So what I'll do is, say I'm using my phone as to have the photograph on, I'll zoom it in so that you can see the gap between the
yeah,
eyes. And then I'll put my pencil over the phone and I'll go like this. So say the other eye is here.
yeah, yeah.
And what I do is a clicking technique. So I'll go like, and that's how many clicks it took me to get there.
Right,
So
okay.
then, so when I go to my drawing, I'll go like from the corner of the eye that I've done, I'll go like, and I'll get it to the same, like as many clicks as it took
Yeah.
to get there. And
Ah,
that's how I measure out my
yeah.
work.
Well, and that's great, isn't it? How, like, finding our own workarounds for
It is,
things as
yeah, it's what
well.
works for you, isn't it?
Yeah, but that, because I know, see, for me, and with getting an outline as well. I mean, the other thing,
Mm.
and particularly, I mean, the say the Taylor Swift one I did with the outline. It's that everything's in the right place, but the outline
Yeah.
looks nothing like her. And it's because it's the color, the shade, it's giving it
Yeah.
the contours of the face. That's what makes it become that person. And yeah, something else like I've used is what you showed me. So when I first started, what I'd do, I'd take a photo on my iPad, and if it didn't look quite right, I'd use like my kind of my Apple Pencil and
Yeah.
scribble over it to try and work out what was what where the problem was, and does this need to be smaller? And that like now, and it's funny initially where it's like, oh, the eye's in the wrong place. Oh, it wasn't completely in the wrong place. I mean, it's just a little, but it makes a big
Yeah,
difference, doesn't it?
it
And so,
does.
but now it's just like, and I did it with the Taylor Swift, right? Just paint, or not her eye, but with the mouth. I had to move her mouth up and her nose up a bit because even though I'd gone the grid, once the paint goes on,
Yeah,
and so, but then it's yeah, just bang a white paint on. Oh, I'll do that again. And but initially it was like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to. And it seemed a big deal to change it, but it really isn't. But what that technique that you highlight with the, and I mentioned before, it was a commission portrait, and so I knew how much this meant to uh,
yeah,
the family I was doing it for, and there was just something not quite right. And you showed me that kind of overlay where you could
yeah.
overlay the reference on your version, and you can see where.
See where you've gone out.
Yeah, and that I found that really helpful. But even then, it's like, well, getting it to line up.
Explain what that is, just so people know who are watching.
Yeah, so it's so the way I do it, and it's slightly different from you, but I'll put it on Canva. I'll put my reference photo onto
Yeah,
a background, so it's just the reference photo. Then I'll put my painting on top of it, and then I'll gradually make my painting more transparent
yeah,
so I can see how it lines up. But even then, it's like getting the size of it. So yeah, the eyes might line up and not other bits. So
yeah.
even then, it can be quite difficult. But
It's difficult to tell, but it's a good tool to use. So if you've done, like I said, I like to use that clicking technique that I came up with. God knows what I sound like when people are in the other room. Probably sound like some sort of whale, you know. But
a
when
dolphin.
you a beluga whale, to be precise.
Yeah,
Yeah, when you've done a piece and you're looking at it and think, yeah, there's just something. It's so hard to know where
yeah,
you've gone wrong. When you've been looking at it for so long,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
to know where you've gone wrong. So sometimes, if you take a picture of your painting, like you said, put it on, I use Pixar if I'm going to check this sort of thing. Um, put the picture of the painting up on Pixar, put your painting over the top, and then make it opaque as like an option on there to make that one picture opaque. And you just overlay them, don't you? And you can just see, that's where I've gone wrong. The
Yeah.
chin's not quite right, or I struggle a lot with the chin area, me. And the sides of the faces because I leave that till last to do.
Right, okay, yeah,
You
yeah.
do it first, don't you, on yours? Like you do the outline first and then,
Yeah, I like to get the kind of proportions and yeah,
yeah,
because it's
I work
like,
from the eyes out.
yeah, because for me, it's like each feat I need to see it in relation to the others, and
Mm.
in relation to the overall. Uh,
Yeah,
but that when but even that you see it in terms of how much I use it. Like I became conscious that you can keep checking, keep checking, keep checking. I thought, no, I don't want to do that.
yeah,
And
it's good just to use it like at the end. I mean, you could look at your portrait. I mean, very rarely have I ever like used it, but it's handy as an option to have. It's like a backup, really.
yeah,
If you're happy with how it looks, there's no reason to you. But if it's
that's
like
it.
to the point where you're like, there's something wrong,
Yeah,
I
that's it.
cannot see what it is, like, because you know what it's like when you've been looking at a piece of art for like 5 hours straight. It's like you can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't see where you've gone wrong, and it's a handy little thing to do and have just to there's a
yeah,
little bit of a reassurance. You could do it and think, actually, that looks pretty good. I've done
yeah,
that really well, but why is it? It just must be my eyes. And it's
yeah,
important sometimes to step away and
yeah.
then
Oh,
come back.
even that, I frequently get up and stand across the room, and you do see it differently. And even like the lighting. I mean, with the one I've just finished, I I changed the kind of it was kind of more warm and kind of oranges and kind of siennas and stuff like that. And then the next day I looked at it and it was more kind of pale and pink, so I made it more like that. And then the next
Yeah.
day, it didn't look like that at all. So that was weird. So I went back to it being a kind of bit warmer. But that kind of technique I use now, like it is where if I think there's something not quite right, but I'll
Yeah.
never then go because that's one of the things I'm conscious of. That if I finished it and I was happy, that if I then went and overlaid it and there was something off, I'd feel I had to change it, and it's like, no, I'm happy with it because
Yeah.
it's not about like I said before, it's not about getting that reference picture exactly copied. It's for me,
Yeah.
it's have I captured that person, and if I'm
Your
happy with that,
interpretation of it, isn't
then
it?
yeah. So yeah, that's quite a long uh with yeah, that question about what tools we use and whether we consider it, whether we should feel guilty or, and I think it is a very personal thing, and I'd love to hear
It
people's feelings on that, whether they are artists themselves or not, because I think the perception of both would be really interesting. I know I was reading recent, it's like the Michelangelo and the roof on the Sistine Chapel. It's not just him up there on his own. It's a whole, it's a project where he's managing lots of different people doing different things.
Yeah.
Banksy, I saw something just online this morning. Someone had captured Banksy's team prepare, and this is it that you have the art idea, this pure artist that's just a blank canvas, and he's that. But there's all kinds of different ways that people create art.
Stencils are used. I mean, I've used stencils for my backgrounds before. You can use objects like, like obviously paintbrushes, but like leaves and things and like parts of tree branches and like, ferns and spray paint over them.
Yeah,
And like you're not doing that freehand essentially, are you? You're literally using something to get the shape of it. I mean, I've used things like forks before.
oh yeah,
Um, just to get the dots. I've also used my daughter's plimsoll. Uh, yeah, my hand in the shoe, and I'm just putting it in the paint and just, putting it on the. She's walked in and be like, "Mum, what on earth are you doing with my shoe?" I'm, don't worry, I'll clean it when I'm done.
I suppose, but
But
that is, and but that seeing that to me that is creative. It's using
yeah,
different things to create a finished
yeah.
thing, isn't it? So, and I think that is the thing about I suppose there shouldn't be any rules really. Um,
Suppose there isn't any rules, so really, is that I mean, I think it's a great way of getting texture as well when you're using like prints of things, like, and using objects that you might find outside or in your house and like random things like fairy liquid lids. And I'm just looking at my kitchen right now, a cup even to get a circle.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, literally, if you look around your room that you're in right now, you will probably see loads of things like, I've got this. I could just use the end of that and put circles on stuff. And
yeah,
like literally, you don't need to be precise in everything that you do. I think that the creative thing about it is where you place them things
yeah,
on your piece. And a lot of people use grids and stuff too, don't they? I mean, I remember when I first started doing portraits for people, and I realised how difficult it can be to get it like precise. And I looked on YouTube and they were using grids. Well, I couldn't even work out how, the measurements of the squares. It stressed me out that much. I didn't want to do the picture in the end. I mean, me and maths don't go hand in hand. I will tell you that now. So I found it more difficult to even
yeah,
put
yeah,
grids on something. I thought I ain't trying that, and that was it. Never done that again. Who brings maths to art? Not me.
yeah. Funny enough, that I kind of I enjoy that. So
Oh
when I do,
God.
so I'll do a lot like a hairline, brow, top,
Mm,
bottom eye, bottom of nose and mouth, and then a line down the middle. And so that's and so I'll kind of measure it on my eye. I'll have the reference. I might have one to show you actually on the iPad. Uh,
yeah.
I'll take my measurements. I will have yeah. So yeah. So can you see that?
Yeah. All right. Okay. So you've
So
got the line. lines.
So yeah, so that's what I
Mm,
do, and then I draw it from there. But
yes.
so to get it onto the size of the canvas, I've got to obviously work out the ratio of making those lines be in the right place on the. And I actually like doing my little
Oh
calculation.
no, that
Yeah.
would be my worst nightmare, Matthew. Honest, I would want to just throw the tablet at the wall, or just like, yeah, I couldn't. Like, I don't know why that is actually. I think because I've never really enjoyed maths, and it was something I really found difficult at school. I've just never enjoyed drawing anything with straight lines. I cannot
Oh, really?
stand, for some reason, I hate rulers. Yeah, I was once asked by John actually to do a drawing of the Transporter Bridge. And it was probably the worst thing I've ever tried. Like worse as in like I enjoyed it the least ever. Cannot I prefer to do everything freehand. I
Yeah,
just like
yeah, yeah.
give me a ruler. And it just I feel so clinical and technical and I really do not enjoy it whatsoever. Puts me right off.
Yeah, it all got it is. It's finding what works for you, and ultimately, you that's it. It shouldn't feel like a slog. Because it's like anything. If it
Yeah,
feels like a real slog and you're not enjoy it, at least some level of enjoyment. Say the stages where you want to throw it out the window or whatever. But
yeah.
overall, it's got to be worth it. Otherwise, because I've done that. I've been thinking, why am I? When you say it's just not, if you're not feeling it, it's not going well. You're making yourself do
Not
it. You're
really
reading a
enjoy
book
it.
that you're not enjoying, and it's like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? Just pack in and get onto something I'll enjoy.
I can't, to be honest, I can't even imagine reading a book I enjoy because I honestly don't read books. I can read, obviously I can read. I will put that out there now, I can read. But it's like I cannot read a book. I lose where I'm up to. I can't concentrate. I'll be sat thinking about a pair of shoes I might want to buy or some, new paintbrushes. Or I'll be like reading and think, I wonder if chickens have ankles, and then I'm like, oh, get back to my book.
Yeah,
I mean, the other sort of thoughts that run through my head. So it's kind of difficult for me to enjoy a book.
I think
Um,
I'm gonna have to maybe add into this some of your questions, aren't we? Like, do chickens have ankles? Maybe have a question of the week every week. Do worms have bums?
so that was it.
That,
I mean,
and I have to point out that isn't something I've ever wondered. That is a genuine that question.
okay. So when I asked you, do worms have bums, right? What was your reply? You wondered. You didn't
Yeah,
know.
no, I think my reply was, I've never actually thought about that, funnily enough. But now you mention it. So yeah, if anyone out there knows whether a worm has a bum and how you know that, I'd be interested to find out as well. Uh, then drop us a line. I won't worry too much about you. Yeah.
But I mean, these are questions. It's like the other day I was looking at my daughter. She was sat over there, and I looked at her like that just to joke with her, and she said, stop looking at me out the corner of your eye." And I'm just like, it just made when she said, "Don't look at me out the corner of your eye," I thought, do eyes have corners?
That's a good
I mean,
question. They are
the
round.
eye, the eyes are round, so to me, a circle doesn't have a corner, does it?
But when you're painting, say the this bit and this bit, they feel like corners when you're painting them.
Well, they are like corners, Matthew, but I would say it's an eye socket corner. It's not a corner of an eye, is it? It's
But
not an eye. It's a
even
socket.
the eye socket, like in your skull, it's round, isn't it?
So
See,
what would you call it then?
say it's. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I nearly said we can go right down the wormhole with this, but given the last question, I don't want to be thinking about wormholes. Sorry,
I
this has
don't think you
really
could.
descended into a place that, yeah, I never thought I'd imagine ending up. So it might be a time to wrap it up.
Yes,
Um,
I was going to quickly show my new edition before we leave.
oh, yes.
So I'm just finding her in the little
Yes, you
carrier.
had your new edition with you.
So here she is.
Oh, wow. Oh, she's very cute.
She is. She's so sweet.
Does she have a name yet?
She does. So it was so difficult to name her though. Like literally could not think of anything that she suited. Nothing seemed to go. And then she was sitting on my knee and I had my phone out. I was looking for names. And for some, I don't know what she done, but she stepped on something on my phone. And it ended up where it come up with information about Cleopatra. And I looked at her and I was just like, Cleo.
Well, I
So
like
she
that.
picked her own name.
Wow, that's quite a rat, that. That's very
Yeah.
impressive.
She's rather clever. She's only 8 weeks old and knows how to use a phone already.
How long do rats live? What's our life expectancy?
Um, about 2 to 3 years. It's not a great deal of time, like, unfortunately. If they lived a bit longer, it would be nicer.
Yeah,
Especially when the kids get attached. It's never nice
yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard
But
rats are meant to be very good. They're very sociable and friendly, aren't the rats, and intelligent?
yeah, yeah, they can be litter trained, you can teach them tricks and all sorts of stuff. They are really clever animals.
I might have to become a rate again, like, another potential regular feature, a trick of the week with Cleo, sorry. So yeah, it was an art chat with Nat, Matt, and Tricks by Cleo.
Yeah. Or you'll have to get a rat on your side, Matthew, and then, we can have one each.
Yeah, art chat with Nat, Matt, and a rat.
Right.
Well, there's lots
Oh,
to
you've
look
got a cat.
forward to. And a cat, yeah. I don't. Yeah, I think he's good. Oh, I think he's outside. I don't know. I think he went back outside. But yeah, I can't believe he hasn't made an appearance yet. Walking all over the computer. That was something in turn when you were saying about the different things that you can use, like a plimsoll or whatever. I was thinking of a cat Simba. Like I'll be painting. You've got your palette and you get your paint, and he'll just jump onto the table from nowhere. I won't even know his end. He's walking across my paint. It's like, no, get. I'm going to have like different colored paw prints all over my house.
Do a collaboration with the cat. There's an idea.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think he'd try and I don't know. He'd try and stitch me up. I reckon he'd claim it was all his work.
Let
Uh,
him work on the background.
yeah, yeah. Maybe one day. Well, that's a whole other thing. Collaborations between artists. I guess that's
Mhm.
something we can talk about at some point as well. The challenges and the opportunities that come with collaboration. Obviously, this is a form of collaboration, but yeah,
Yeah.
collaborative pieces. I know that's something we've talked about as well, isn't it? So, yeah, perhaps we can talk about that as well in the future. Sorry, is this your dog or your rat or?
No, I'm just laughing about the topic of conversation that we just had. Just came from nowhere.
Yeah, I imagine that'll make it onto the shorts, the social
Probably.
media shorts this week. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. What's this? Yeah, yeah. That's it. It's an added bonus. You come for art chat, and then you find out whether chickens have ankles. Um, there's something for everyone there, isn't there?
Well, chickens do have ankles. I have Googled that before, so
Oh, okay, that's good to know. You just
you learn something new every day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. I'll we'll leave it there. Well, yeah, again, love to hear your feedback, your questions that you might want us to stew over next week. And
Mhm.
yeah, thanks for joining us. And just see you all next week.
Yeah, it's been really lovely, and hopefully we'll have some more questions and a few more, suggested topics that we can cover,
Yeah.
which would be great.
Yeah, and of course, and say I'd love to hear people's thoughts on the things we've discussed today. So
I
yeah,
dread to think.
yeah, stick to the art bits, I think. Yeah. Right. Thank you. And yeah, see you all next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye.